Welcome, my dear students of class 8A and 8B, to my history class. Today's topic, the same topic, the revolt of 1857, chapter number 11, points, political causes, doctrine of lapse, subsidiary alliance, annexation of states, humiliation of Bahadur Shah Zafar II. Now, first point, political causes, doctrine of lapse and subsidiary alliance. You know, the British introduced many expansionist policies in order to annex Indian territories, Indian states. The two expansionist policies were done by two Governor Generals. Governor General Lord Wellesley introduced subsidiary alliance. Governor General Lord Dalhousie introduced the doctrine of lapse. So one Lord Wellesley and other one Lord Dalhousie. Both the two Governor Generals wanted to annex Indian territories without declaring war against Indian rulers. Earlier, they declared so many wars against Indian rulers and were able to defeat them. But while defeating Indian rulers, they had to spend a lot of money. Now they decided to annex Indian territories without spending a single amount of money, because they knew the result. It was of no use to them to declare any war against Indian rulers because they had no ability to defeat the British. If once they defeated the British, but afterwards they would be defeated repeatedly by the British. So it would be better for them, they should drain the wealth of India for their own country, England, and should occupy Indian territories by hook or by crook, and should annex Indian states by making some expansionist policies. The two policies, Lord Wellesley's subsidiary alliance, Lord Dalhousie's doctrine of lapse, were the most important examples. Lord Wellesley, under the terms of the subsidiary alliance, decided to annex Indian territories by offering some proposals to Indian rulers that either they would accept the terms or their territories would be annexed under some provisions. Some Indian territories and their rulers accepted the terms of subsidiary alliance, and then it came under British control, and those who did not, accept the terms of the subsidiary alliance, the British forcefully annexed it. But one territory was there whose ruler accepted the terms of subsidiary alliance because the ruler, the Nawab of Ayod, was a peaceful man. He did not want to make any contradiction, any confrontation with the British. In order to avoid confrontation, he accepted the terms of the subsidiary alliance. But ultimately what happened? Ayod was annexed by the British. Now, what were the terms of the subsidiary alliance? Number one, Indian states would have to accept some terms of the subsidiary alliance. A, if they would accept the terms of the subsidiary alliance, their sovereignty would be protected by the British. If any state was attacked by foreigners or foreign rulers, the British would help them from being attacked, provided they would have to maintain a group of British soldiers at their cost, and one resident office also will be established there, and they would have to maintain the office and its expenditure at their cost. These are the terms of the subsidiary alliance. First, Ayodhya signed the terms of the subsidiary alliance in order to avoid confrontation against the British. Under the terms of subsidiary alliance, those states who would accept the terms of subsidiary alliance, they would not be annexed by the British. But Lord Wellesley's intention was quite different. Although Ayodhya accepted the terms of subsidiary alliance, yet it was annexed by bringing false allegations of maladministration and mismanagement. Maladministration and mismanagement. These two allegations were brought against the Nawab of Ayodhya, and by bringing these allegations, Lord Wellesley annexed Ayodhya, because Ayodhya was a place of huge natural, wealth, huge revenues, source of revenues, and the people of Ayodhya, including the Nawab, were peaceful. They avoided any kind of confrontation. That's why it was annexed. And Lord Dalhousie's doctrine of lapse, it annexed a number of Indian territories. Now, what are the terms of the doctrine of lapse? Under the terms of the doctrine of lapse, no Indian ruler would adopt any son if he or she had no legal heir. Suppose one ruler died leaving no legal heir to his throne, and before his death he took one adopted son, so that very adopted son would become the successor to his throne after his death. But according to the terms of the doctrine of lapse, it was decided that no Indian ruler, if they had no legal heir to his or her throne, would be unable to adopt any son as the natural heir to his or her throne. In that case, if he or she would take any adopted son as natural heir, then after the death of him or her, their right would not be accepted by the British, and the territories would come under British control. Many Indian states came under British control after the death of those rulers who had no legal heir. Jhansi was there. Jhansi's ruler had no natural heir. So, on the eve of his death, he accepted one adopted son. He took an adopted son as his natural heir, declining or ignoring the terms of the doctrine of lapse. But after the death of the ruler of Jhansi, his widow, the Rani of Jhansi, Rani Lakshmibai, decided to recognize her adopted son to be the successor to the throne of Jhansi, but the British obstructed the way of it and did not recognize the right to the throne of Jhansi, did not recognize the right of Anand Rao, adopted son of Rani Lakshmibai, to the throne of Jhansi. So the Rani of Jhansi, Lakshmibai, decided to raise her sword against the British. He decided to fight against the British. Without chasing the British, without fighting against the British, he decided not to leave 1 inch of land of Jhansi for them. But ultimately, she was defeated. But what example he set up encouraged millions of Indian revolutionaries, since she fought and made many attempts to defeat the British. Even the military general Hardwick also praised the bravery of Queen Rani of Jhansi, Lakshmibai. The British also decided to annex a number of Indian states. Lord Dalhousie, before Lord Dalhousie, the other rulers, before Lord Dalhousie, the other Governor General, means Lord Wellesley, as I mentioned earlier, annexed Ayodhya by bringing false allegations against the Nawab. Why? Because the Nawab of Ayodhya was a very peaceful man. He decided to avoid any kind of misunderstanding with the British. But Lord Wellesley decided to annex Ayodhya by hook or by crook on the grounds of mismanagement and maladministration. And this matter had become a great cause of resentment among the people of Ayodhya. The company used the Sipais of Ayodhya to conquer other parts of India. The Sipais of Ayodhya played an important role because they fought against the enemies of the British for several times, but still Ayodhya was annexed. That's why the Sipais of Ayodhya played an important role in the revolt of 1857 against the British. Not only that, the farmers had to pay high revenues to cover the expenses that the British incurred. And not only that, the company decided to gradually end the rule of the Mughal dynasty in India. That's why the last Mughal emperor, Bahadur Shah Zafar II, was directly insulted by the British. How was he insulted? Lord Dalhousie, under one circular, announced that after the death of Bahadur Shah Zafar II, his successors would be unable to use royal titles, would be unable to have other privileges. It was a great matter of prestige for the last Mughal emperor Bahadur Shah Zafar II. Hence, when the Sepoys of India offered him the proposal of leadership for them during the revolt of 1857, declaring him to be the Mughal emperor, initially he did not accept their proposal because his health was broken down. But his wife encouraged him a lot, since he was insulted at the hands of the British under the circular of Lord Dalhousie in the year 1849. That's why ultimately he accepted the proposal of the Sepoys and decided to lead the Sepoy mutiny, the revolt of 1857. The states which were not directly under the company's rule had residents who prevented Indians from raising their voices against the British. Because the British knew that the oppressive policies, whatever they adopted against the Indians, might become a cause of discontentment, and Indians might raise their voices against them. These events cause a feeling of resentment and insecurity among whom? Among the Indian rulers. That their wave of anger, discontentment, resentment reached East India Company headquarters, England. So ultimately, the British decided to stop framing any other oppressive policies against the Indians for few months or few years. But the grievances of the Indian rulers as well as Indian people would force them to organize a revolt, would force them to organize a group from where they started to antagonize the British rule. The Sepoys of India decided not to work under the instructions of the British, since they were forcing them to do it. But some system which they introduced for the Indian Sepoys, it was against their will, it was against their religion. That's why they left all respect for the British and decided to start a revolt in the year 1857. The name of this revolt is Sepoy Mutiny by some British historians, but it's a fact that it was the first war of independence started against the British East India Company. Up to this, my just rules. Next day, other points. Thank you.